Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Power family, Power Warriors. It is good to be with you. And I'm joined by my co-host with the same t-shirt,
Look at that. I don't
Tom
want to say that
Cotter.
you have a twin, but maybe you do here with just the shirt.
A triplet. A triplet. How we doing, Tom?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I'm excited for our training today. Jonathan always brings real value to people, the other Jonathan. I'm excited for today, especially headed into 4.0. I think referrals are an interesting kind of thing to add into all of the new updates we got coming.
Very agreed. Very agreed. Yeah, Jonathan is awesome. Some of you might have had the privilege of seeing him at headquarters do his presentation, which was really, really good. Um, And we can stay online a little bit after today's training to do some Q&A, office hours, questions around 4.0 and things like that. But in the meantime, let's dive in. Everyone is welcome to this call. Power Hitters Solar Warrior Tribe every Tuesday, 10 Pacific. And we always like to start off with a few success stories. So if you want to raise your hand, type one in the chat, come off of mute here. We're going to share just a few wins from this last week or two that you guys have had out there in the field, conversations, installs. Maybe you got an ambassador. Maybe you connected with a real estate agent. Any win at all, we
Well,
would
people are
love to
raising
hear
their
it.
hands. I'll just jump in. So we had a recap slash recruiting event last night with Cami, Bobby, and Charles, and I'd been sharing some of the social posts that I've done, um, and we'll look at that in a minute here. But I had 11 people on last night, 10 new people that were interested in the setter role that were launching on March 14th, and then one person that was in Powur a couple of years ago that was interested in coming back after I went through and text just a short message about what we're doing with 4.0 to all of my past teammates that were direct to me. So
Nice.
was fun to have a lot of interest in what we're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, 4.0 is such a huge, huge time for us. It's going to bring a lot of growth, guys. We have 80, 90, 100 people joining every day, and we haven't even rolled it out yet. So get excited. And yeah, I wanted to hit on that too. Texting everyone you've ever talked to about Powur with this new exciting information. So good job, Tom. There's another one of those next Monday as well. We're going to cover here in just a second. Let's go ahead and hear Bill Conley's success story.
Well, since Jared's not here, I feel able to say hi, Power Family. No, I had two installs last week, one of which was a conversion from a Sonova financed project. So they're happening. It's really neat to see that movement, and I am so excited about Power 4.0 changing the game this year. I think 2025 is going to prove to be a banner year for all of us in Power and for a whole lot of people that haven't even seen the platform yet. So really excited about that. Thank you guys for being a big part of that.
Right on, Bill. Awesome share. And I'll go ahead and give a share to Zachary Bach with TST Team and Colby West. They closed a really nice deal together around $13,000 margin. So shout out to Zach Bach, Colby West. Also, Julian Todd Borden had a 20 kilowatt 3 Powerwall install with Colby as well. So that install was the last few days. Massive install here in Las Vegas as well. So lot of success, a lot of installs, a lot of momentum right now. And guys, summer's around the corner, so get pumped up. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Type any successes, wins in the chats, and let's continue that energy here. So I have a few quick updates for you. Today's referral training, which you don't want to miss. It's 10 to 15 years condensed into an awesome referral training. And then Monday on the 10th, there is a Powur 4.0 pre-launch recap again that you can attend, build into. Next Tuesday, we're doing new builds, ADU, and new construction training. And then Our official Powur 4.0 public-facing launch, everybody, is March 14th. You want to invite, bring the energy, and talk to anyone you've ever talked to about Powur and get them registered and attend with them. The opportunity here is intense, guys. You have to bring the energy around this. This is super exciting. And then March 18th, we have an in-person Las Vegas 4.0 launch. We're going to grab the Eventbrite here. It'll be in Powur Calendar if it's not already. And then tentatively March 22nd, if you're around Southern California, we're planning an in-person 4.0 launch as well. So why am I telling you Las Vegas launch, Southern California launch? Guys, these are events that you can build into. You could run ads around. You could contact people around. You could invite them to go in person. You could text the leaders in the room, hey, George is going to be there. Sally's going to be there. This is one of the ways to build your business and make income. So don't sleep on that. And then you can see March 28th, Building with Bobby Smith and Jonathan Budd. And 2 other events to round out the year in April, SolarCon Las Vegas, and then Powur World this year in September will be in Las Vegas as well. So let's go ahead and move to Tom's.
Yeah, just make sure you're sharing sound here as soon as you click play, but not yet. Before we watch this, I want you to take a second and think about something with me. What do you believe about yourself, about your ability to succeed in Powur, in the solar industry? Some of you are rock solid in your confidence, and others might struggle with doubt, kind of wondering if you're really cut out for this, right? You might think that you feel ready until you believe in yourself. You know, that really you have to feel it first before you succeed. But what if that thinking is kind of backwards? And so this video, it's just a few minutes. It speaks to something that I think is really powerful, that you don't have to believe in yourself first, you have to take action. So let's watch this video.
An ode to people who don't believe in themselves. What comes first, belief or action? Do you need to believe that you can do a thing before you can do it? Fake it until you make it is one option, but incredibly hard if you're introspective and have low self-belief and high standards. So what about make it until you believe it? Here are some lessons that I've learned. You can believe you're not worthy of a thing and still attain it. You can be adamant that your efforts are going to go badly and still succeed. You can grip and grasp and fear and it ruin the enjoyment and be totally unwarranted and things still go well. You can have no self-belief and show up anyway. You can want more for yourself without knowing exactly what that looks like. You can doubt the process, question your talent, be uncertain that you're making progress, disparage your accomplishments, permanently feel like you're not working hard enough no matter how hard you work, never give yourself a break, fail to fully feel gratitude, be terrified of never reaching your goals, and still end up in a place that your 20-year-old self could not imagine you'd ever get to. Self-belief is overrated. Generate evidence, says Ryan Holiday.
So let that sink in. You don't need unshakable confidence to make progress. You just need to show up. So think about how this applies to you setting solar appointments. You don't have to feel like an expert and know everything before you book your first appointment. You don't have to feel like the best closer before you run your first proposal. You don't have to wait for belief. You build belief by doing. So here's my challenge for you. What's one action that you can take today that moves you forward, even if whatever in that thing is, you don't feel ready? So you can put that in the chat. What's that one action that you're going to take today, even though you may not feel ready? Maybe it's making a call, knocking a door, following up with that lead, reaching out to someone about the business. Whatever it is, take that step. And that's how belief is built, by stacking real wins one at a time. And I'll be checking the chat as you think about that as we move forward. Jonathan, back to you.
Thank you, as always, Tom. Yeah, type in the chat what you're going to do to take action, even if the confidence or competence is not quite fully where you want it to be. Moving on to today's social media shareable of the day, I'm going to put Tom's script in the chat. And this is a kind of team building Power 4.0 social media shareable. We did it as well last year. I'm sorry, last Tuesday. So what I would ask is that you post the picture on your social media. And guys, LinkedIn was my most successful interaction with this post, by the way. I didn't see hardly any of you post it. So post something similar, post this picture. It's an awesome headquarter conference room. And then now you have a script to go ahead and post as well. It is in the chat, and I highly recommend. It does pretty well on LinkedIn because everyone needs extra income. One more thing to share. As always, our Monday newsletter here with a message from Jonathan Budd emphasizing our March 14th launch event. Tom said last night was a Power 4.0 event. We have one as well, March 10th. So make sure to schedule that. More information, the Power 4.0 overview page is live. So check out the details and knowledge base. Aurora transition, guys. I love, if you put a 1 in the chat, if you love Power Vision and Aurora, like that's the path. Good Leap and Ownership and Sungage, and then Enfin and Lightreach Aurora. Like we have the two best tools coming on right now. So I'm excited about that. There's this awesome contest, by the way, that starts on the 14th with insane prizes. Please check that out. You can win some crazy cool prizes with just a few sales, and some other updates as well in the newsletter. So moving on to today's training, appreciate the patience. Just a quick intro here, and I'll let him say a little bit more about himself. So Jonathan Charles Wilson, I've known for probably over 9 years now. Yes, he did sell my parents solar. When I started Solar City, my first few months, I could not close my parents, and Jonathan closed them. So he has been at a few large nationwide companies. He's led teams. He's mostly referral based, 7-figure referral training. And this kind of combines trainings from Sunrun and lots of other companies he's worked at over the years. So it's really important, guys. Referrals, referrals, referrals. Networking, social media, planting the seeds for referrals, weaving them in, watering your referral garden, getting ambassadors, and some of the success habits, mindsets that you need in order to build a referral-based business. It should be one of the verticals of your income and lead gen, as always. So Jonathan, appreciate you taking the time today to lead this training. We'll go ahead and take it away. And Jonathan is a badass tier 3 mentor closer, just throwing it out there. So John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. That was an awesome intro. And thank you for that share, Tom. Can't tell you how much I can relate with that, how much I have been shaken in my confidence and in this industry and in life, and have taken action anyway. And one of the quotes that came to my mind recently, I was talking with a gentleman on this call about it, is something that I learned from Tony Robbins and also from the movie Gladiator. So I'll start with that because that's on the top of my mind. But basically, in the first Gladiator movie, there's this scene where Maximus is talking with Marcus Aurelius, and he's basically said, what will you have me do, my king? And he said, I have one more thing for you to do. I need you to give back Rome to its people. And he says, King, I cannot. And he brings him in close and he says, then you must. That is why you must. And that is the perfect embodiment of what I feel at times with this job. Is sometimes I just feel like I can't, and that means that I must, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, hopefully add some value to some of you legends on this call. Super honored to be on the call with you. Met a lot of you guys in person, like Tom and Craig at Leadership Summit a couple weeks ago. It was awesome to be there in person, and hopefully get some takeaway, some nuggets. And then the invitation is to go ahead and empty your cup, if you will, right? Whenever you're learning something new, try to look at it as fresh and as new as you can. That goes for me as somebody who's trained this, dozens of times. And, I'm trying to just take that 1% of something new from this. So I just invite you to, empty your cup for a minute, suspend belief, and maybe try on something new today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see that? Cool. Thanks for the thumbs up. All right. So the mantra here is create your own spring. So some of us maybe would agree, disagree that we're in a bit of a winter. If anybody saw the stock market for solar yesterday, kind of crazy. So the winter time is here. It's been here for a little bit of a minute, obviously with Sonova, other companies in the industry, a lot of uncertainty there. And the beauty about winter is that's whenever we get to build the muscle, right? That's when we get to build that warrior strength that we talk about. And, quite frankly, there's going to be a lot more people leave the industry, and that means the opportunity just is going to continue to grow. So, the first thing I have here is a good old Tony Robbins incantation. So, a modified version of what I got from his event. So I'm going to invite you in just a second to repeat after me. I'm going to say this out loud, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into this training. So, it doesn't matter who's around. Just go ahead and say it out loud. Say it with some energy, some confidence in your body. And I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. So repeat after me. I am a solar warrior. Winter
I
is my season. I will not be denied. Bring me your fears. Bring me your limitations. I give you results. I add more value than anyone else. I do whatever it takes and find a way to victory. Winter is my season. Say yes. All right, let's go. So sometimes I got to remind myself of that. I've said that hundreds of times, and it always feels good to just get that in my body again. So a little bit about my winter story, my first winter story. So, 5 years old, wake up in a mobile home park outside of the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, and my body is on fire. I am in tears. I can't move. It literally feels like somebody has set me on fire from the inside out. And at that moment, that was the first time I prayed, and it was really just a cry for help. And I prayed, Lord, help me get out of my bed and get to my parents to get help. I didn't know what was happening, and I was in extreme pain. And what felt like for an eternity, maybe took 40, 45 minutes to crawl from one end of the trailer in my room to my parents' room and wake them up to me crying for help. They then took me to the emergency room. I was tested and later diagnosed with a rare form of juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which, for anyone who knows rheumatoid arthritis, basically the autoimmune condition where all of your connective tissue in your body is attacked by your immune system and causes full body inflammation. I was getting temperatures on a weekly basis of 106, 107 degrees, having hallucinations. I wanted to kill myself. I wrote suicide notes towards the latter part when I was about 6.5, after having it for about a year and a half. And I didn't see a purpose to live. In the Bible, it says, without a vision, people perish, but whenever you're about to perish, you don't have vision. And that's where I was at that time in my life. I did not have a vision for the future. I did not see the purpose to live. And, by the grace of God, one day spontaneously went into remission. Doctors don't know why. They wanted to run tests on me, wanted to pay my parents 5 figures at the time, back in the late 90s when that was worth something more, to run tests on me and see what was going on. And I'm glad my parents declined. I was honestly tired of being tested and given shots and evaluated and all these things that was happening to me to try to manage the symptoms. And I always tell people that my life has gotten so much better ever since, and I truly believe that. And some of us go through winters early in life, some later. But the invitation is to find that winter as a place of resource, because my kind of premise with who I am and how I try to live is, we've all been through some challenging time, and that challenge that you overcame is your biggest resource. It's also your greatest connection point. I always say I had the disease of disconnection, and now what I do for a living, training referrals, is all about connecting people, right? And so I invite you to just take a look at or think about for a moment, like, what is a winter that you've been through? Maybe it was a financial winter, maybe it was a relationship winter, a health winter, some sort of a challenge you've been through. And just, I invite you to think about that as we move through this training, because again, I think, resourcefulness is the most powerful resource that we have. And whenever you can tap into that resource of your struggle and your challenge, that's your greatest ability to connect and serve and to really deliver true value to people beyond just solar. So let's go ahead and jump into the tactical training. So this is what we're going to get into today. Referral mindsets, process structure, ambassadors, how to build ambassadors. So I have built this system, like was said earlier, over 12 years. Really started to kick it off in, I would say 2018 is whenever I went all in. In fact, since 2018, I haven't really generated any significant business off of anything else. I would say 95+% of my business since 2018 has come from this system I'm training on, and I've earned well over $1 million in commissions and helped hundreds of homeowners with these systems. And so excited to bring that today. I have been paid 5 figures to deliver these trainings and to help other people, and you guys get it for free. So hopefully you guys get some value out of this. And I'm certain that if you take what we talk about today and just apply it, even a little bit of it, you're going to find some results. So let's get into it. So first of all, mindset. So this is super important. First, I want to debunk some fake mindsets that I hear, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, I feel like, with even with Tom's intro about not having, maybe belief. So how many of you guys, just maybe a show of hands in the comments here, how many of you guys have said to yourself, you know what, this process with solar took too long, the installer effed it up, the company's to blame, and I cannot get a referral from this customer? Who said that to themselves? Right? Let me see some of that, right? It's like we've all said that, right? We've had that thought process. And let me tell you right now, we need to flip that on its head. Learn this one from Tony Robbins. He taught me in 2015 the #1 time to create a raving fan customer is at the peak of their disappointment. The #1 time to create a raving fan customer is at the peak of their disappointment. Now, why is that? Well, for one, get into biology a little bit. Our brains are addicted to problems, right? We love news because it's so negative. We can't get enough of it. And so that type of negativity, it's an anchor. I often joke and say that my customers, some of my best customers, me and them are trauma bonded together, right? We're trauma bonded, and that trauma bond goes deep. And the truth is, if you're able to be there for them through the challenge, and even if you don't have an immediate solution, because as we know in solar, there's oftentimes not immediate solutions to problems. Things can take months or longer to work themselves out, whether that's a true up bill or a delay with the AHJ and permitting or some sort of, major thing, a company going bankrupt, right? It could be a number of things that cause major delays. And that's a time for us to show up and really serve our clients. And so, don't shy away from problems when problems arise. Address them. One of my favorite new terms I've shared with some of you guys is a term called toxic positivity. I'm not a person, if you guys know me personally, that's going to be super happy and kumbaya when problems happen. In fact, I'm quite normal, I would say, and having a pretty negative reaction to negative things that happen. But that doesn't mean that I give up and stop or I don't press forward, right? I'm going to keep going and be real and show up and say, hey, this freaking sucks. I'm right there with you. And whenever you do that and people see that this, guy, Jonathan, is not going anywhere, that's when people say, hey, you know what? Like, you got to talk to my friend so and so. And one other thing to mention on this is, again, back to this thing of like, I was just talking with a rep, recently about this, one of my reps, and telling him like, hey, he was like, yeah, they were saying, I talked to the customer, I did the referral pitch, and they were just like, oh, it took too long. It took, I think it took like 6, 7 months or something like that to get the system going. And so they said they didn't really know if they felt comfortable referring. And then he kind of went along with it, right? He was like, oh yeah, and I kind of agreed with them. And I'm like, well, first of all, that was that was your problem. You didn't redirect that energy, right? So here's a pro tip. Whenever a customer says something like that, you dance with the fear, as we say. You aikido that fear, right? You bring it in and you go, no, yeah, I totally get it. That's one of the biggest downsides to this program is it can take a long time. I know I mentioned that a few times through the process of how long it takes. So when you talk to your friends and family about the program, it's actually really helpful to tell them your experience honestly and tell them it took a while. And the reason why that's important is because if they think this program is too good to be true and everything's just going to be sunshine and rainbows, they're not going to believe it as much, right? People, we have this weird mechanism, and we'll get into this later in my training. People believe negativity more easily than they believe positivity. It's just this weird hack with human psychology. So whenever you actually agree with the negative and tell them to pass along the negative, you're going to be surprised. People are going to spread your name because of the negative news faster than the positive news. I know that might be hard for some of you to believe, but I'm telling you, it'll work. And I know because I've done this for 7 years, and I tell people, I say, hey, yeah, I know it took a long time, or I know there was an issue, and obviously that's one of the big challenges with this program is that it doesn't always go smooth. So when you tell people about this, just let them know like this isn't going to be a super fast process. In fact, I don't even know if you're going to qualify, right? Do the good old takeaway. So, that's one way there. A couple more things on mindset. So, mention referrals early and often. So I talk about referrals mostly in the very beginning just because people that are coming to me are coming from a referral. So after I do my intro pitch, set the appointment, get the utility bill, I kind of plant that initial seed of the referral by saying something like, hey, great, look forward to meeting you, and looking at your house, seeing if you're a good fit for the program. Obviously, if you like the program, we'll talk to you more later about the referral program and how that all works. Right. So it's just a real soft, like kind of intention that you're putting out from the very beginning. And then as we progress through the training, I'll show you how I kind of go deeper and deeper into that. But I'm always mentioning it and just kind of subtly pushing that referral. So one other big mindset, and then we'll move on. So getting referrals is as important as the close. So oftentimes, I think as salespeople, we focus on the close because it is really, the most important part is getting them over that decision threshold. And I'll talk about why in my sale, I actually don't believe that my customers need to make the decision. In fact, I train on my closing training that we need to, as good closers, defer decision making and reduce buying pressure. And there's strategies to do those two things. But the referral needs to be treated with equal, if not more importance than the close. So also too, when you're going for the close and you're kind of signing documents, it's the most masterful redirect away from the fact that they're signing up, right? Multi-level marketers and timeshare salespeople have figured this out for decades now. That if at the end of the close you can get them thinking about other people who might benefit from the program, they're now distracted from the fact that they just signed up for whatever that product is. And so we'll talk about how to weave that into your close. And then actually one last thing. So any non-customer or customer can be activated as an ambassador at any time. So one common thing that I hear from my reps is, oh, I missed my opportunity to ask for a referral. I should have asked. And who's ever said this, right? And I've done this before. I should have pitched the referral program at the install. I should have, right? They should all over themselves, as we say. I should have done this, right? And then they never take action on actually asking for that referral. You can ask, and the truth is you can ask for a referral anytime. You can ask for a referral before the sale, after the install, after PTO, 2 years after PTO. In fact, my suggestion is that, asking often is what's going to make you successful long-term at this. So, if you haven't asked somebody recently for a referral, that's your homework for today. Go ask for a referral. All right. So how do we introduce the program, frame it with the pullback? We'll talk about that, the process. So making incentives, deadlines, why that's important. We'll get into that. And then the coaching system. This is super important. So just to kind of summarize this slide, what I often see and hear and have done myself, and honestly kind of, I would say messed up or didn't do it the right way is we'll do a soft ask for a referral, right? Maybe you've done this, you've been at a close and you've, done all, everything you're supposed to. And then you say, hey, Jonathan, I just wanted to like let you know we have this program. You can earn up to $1,000. So if you know of anybody, I'd love to help them out, blah, 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 right? We've said just kind of a soft pitch is what I would call that. And then the other person might have reciprocated back and said, oh, wow, this is great. Like I actually have a few people in mind. I'm going to refer you right away. And then how many times has that happened and they never refer you, right? They never refer you. And they said they wanted to, right? Now, this happens all the time. And I'm going to tell you why it's your fault. Okay. Get ready. Coach Wilson's coming out and I'm going to coach you guys for a quick second. This is your fault. And the reason it's your fault is because it's just like on a close. You go for the close and you got sold. Somebody said, oh, you know what? This sounds great. We want to do it. We just need a little bit of time to think about it. Right. And then we'll get back to you in a couple of days. And how many times does that ever happen? Right. No, nobody gets back to you. Right. Nobody gets back to you because the truth is people don't want to make the wrong decision. And because they don't want to make the wrong decision, they won't make any decision. They'd rather not make any decision than make the wrong decision. So what's going to happen is, you got them committed to an extent, right? They've signed the paperwork, maybe they're scheduling the site survey, there's some commitment, there's some buy-in. If you do not capitalize on that momentum that you created during the closing process and actually go a step further, which I'm going to train on in a sec, of how do you actually get the referrals, follow up, and hold them accountable in a good way, not in some whatever, aggressive way, but how do you actually mine that properly? Then what you're doing is you're doing not only, yourself, obviously, the customer, their referrals a service, but you're actually providing much more value than just the close. Because if any of us on the call who believes that what we do offers tremendous value to others, right? If you believe that what we do offers tremendous value to others, then you passing that along and helping your client pass that along to their clients is one of the greatest services that you can do beyond just helping them with their immediate home and their situation. So first of all, that's the right mindset. And then we'll get into actually how do you coach your homeowners properly. So here's a couple tips before we get into the coaching strategies. So first of all, make it a program. So I call it my green team. Personally, I've had people call it their A team. They call it a name, right? Come up with a name, whatever it is, maybe tie it to your brand in some way. But make it something that's like a thing, right? It's a program, give it a title, make some print material, digital material. If you do a digital presentation, have a one-page slide. I have little postcards that I made up with my printer that I, in person, give to them. And it has, places for them to write down 5 names and numbers and the details of the $1,000 program and kind of high level how it works on the card. But have something that actually it makes, and here's why this is important. If it's just in your talk track or in your script, but there's nothing actually tangible there, like an actual something to prompt you as the seller to go, oh, wait, I need to remember to talk about this. And oh, wait, I need to remember what Jonathan said and actually go a little bit deeper instead of just being like, oh, yeah, I pitched referrals. I mentioned it to them and they said they were going to give me some people's names and numbers and then keep getting the same crappy results that you've been getting, which is almost no referrals. And then you're like, oh, back to the doors again. Oh, back to cold calling, oh, back to whatever it is that you currently do to generate business. I'm telling you right now that this is the secret sauce. This is the magic that's going to make anybody who's been super successful long-term at solar has a robust referral business, and they're doing something like this. So other tips, attach the money to something of meaning. So Jordan Shaw does this really well. I think he's on here. And so, he's one of the best I've seen do this where he ties it to a vacation. You can tie it to, something that's like a need of theirs or a want. And you can pick these things up kind of throughout the process. So, paying off some sort of a big item, paying off a car, a credit card, going on a vacation, something like that. And even ask them that during the process when you're talking about this referral program, which we'll get into kind of the whole 10-20 minute coaching call. That's the big part of it. And so attach it to meaning, instruct them to do a group text intro. Most of you are probably doing this. This is super basic, low hanging fruit, but here's a little bit of a talk track that I use that helps me, kind of get that introduction. I'll say, hey, Jonathan, just so you know, like this referral program, I really don't want to name in a number. Like, I don't want to be that guy that cold calls your friend or family member and bugs them at a weird time. Like that, trust me, that's the last thing I want to do. I've just found that that's not really successful. What I have found with my top referring ambassadors is that they just put me in a group text introduction. That way I can find a time when it's good for the person you're referring to talk on the phone, right? So that way I don't interrupt them. It's not a weird time. So if you can, just go ahead and let the person know that you're going to be putting them in a group text with me. That way I can take it from there and I can find a time when it's convenient for them, right? So that's a talk track that I say hundreds, if not thousands of times, because again, the people want to refer you. You have to know this, like we just established, people want to refer you. If you did a really great job of providing value and building trust and solving a problem, then people are going to want to refer you. But the problem is they're not professional salespeople, most of them, right? Like less than 5% or so probably of your customers are professional salespeople for a living. And those people are probably the only ones currently giving you referrals, if any. Now, I'm going to show you in just a second, how do you increase that number? How do you tap into your customer base that really wants to refer you, but they don't know how because you haven't given them the tools or the training on how to do it effectively? So this is the first thing, is just make it simple, put them into a group text. It's like, let them know, hey, I don't really want to cold call people. I don't want to bug your friends and family. And quite honestly, they probably don't want to hear from me either. I always say, who the heck wants to sit with a solar salesperson, right? Like nobody, right? That's, at least that's been my experience. Maybe it's different. Maybe you've got a better empowering belief, but I personally believe that nobody really wants to sit with the solar salesperson. So it's my job to make this as painless, as I like to say, frictionless and simple as possible. And that's your job when doing a referral handoff, is to make this process super smooth for the person that's referring you. Because if it's easy and they find, wait, there's a pathway to make $1,000 and Jonathan made it so simple, then and then they're going to go, oh, I want to do this again, right? And the most important referral that you close is the first one, because once they see that one of their friends and family have moved forward, now it's like the floodgates open, right? And that's what's the most important, is that first one, then everything starts to happen. So here are some coaching steps. So let me kind of just paint a picture here of when I do this in the process. Now, the most important thing is that you have a designated time in your sales process to do this. Even if you don't do it perfectly or right or whatever that is, as long as you have it in your process, that's the first point. So if you don't have something like this where you talk about referrals with your client more than just one or two sentences, but an actual like drawn out process, like take some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today and apply it, and do it religiously. Even if you don't know what you're doing, right? Take action, even if your belief isn't there, as we say. So here's a couple things that I found to coach your client. And here's how the conversation starts. So I have this conversation, generally speaking, now at installation or sometimes at the close. Now, I've had this previously pre-sale. You can have this conversation pre-sale. And some people believe that that's a better strategy. And I honestly, I couldn't tell you which one is better. Some people say it's better to actually get the referrals early because it increases the buy-in of the client before they've even made a commitment, which I would agree there's probably some truth in that. I've also experienced the opposite, where they start talking to their friends and family about solar, and then people love being negative because that's just how we are as humans. And they say, oh, why would you do solar? That's a dumb idea. And then they call you back, hey, Jonathan, we're going to hold off on solar for now. We just need to get a few more quotes and kind of do some more research, right? Who's heard that? Right? So it's like, that's what so personally, my philosophy is I don't want anything to interrupt the sale. So generally I'm having this conversation either, at installation or even sometimes a day or two before installation when they're already locked in and nothing's gonna potentially ruin the psychology around that sale. So anyways, that's some pro tips there. So here we go. It's install day. Their emotion is at a peak, right? And whether it's a positive or negative emotion, usually at install day, it's the most positive emotion that they're going to have. Maybe at their first true up bill, that'll be their first negative emotion that they have, right? But we can talk about times of when you can capitalize on both. But let's just start with their peak emotion. They're going to be stoked. They're finally getting solar. It's been however many weeks or months. You show up install day, you bring something for the installers because you're a good human being and you want to support them, and that you're there, all kumbaya, everything's happy. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, is it cool if we sit down for 5, 10 minutes? I just have something else I wanted to go over with you before I head out and start talking to some of your neighbors. Cool. They're happy. You're talking about stuff. You sit them down at the kitchen table just like you would at a normal close, and you bring back up the referral program. Now, if you've already mentioned it at the close and even beforehand, then they at least have somewhere in the back of their mind, oh yeah, Jonathan mentioned this referral program. Cool. So we sit down, hey, I wanted to talk with you about the referral program that we mentioned before, that $1,000. So now that we finally, you got your house approved, we got your solar beam put up, obviously there's still a few more steps. I wanted to just sit down and go over a few people and give you some coaching on how to approach those people on how to go solar. Are you open just to a little bit of feedback and coaching? Right? So I opened it up with the question, are you open to some coaching on how to make this successful to refer me to your friends and family? Right? Now, you kind of have them already on the hook at that point, so they're most likely not going to say no, right? They'll be polite, even if they have no intention of referring you, and that's fine. Some people are like that. Some people are just they're introverts or whatever. They're not. They don't feel confident, or maybe like, well, we're getting solar, but let's see how it goes first, right? You've probably heard that one. Well, maybe let's wait till it gets activated. Oh, let's wait till that, right? People again, if they're not confident, they're going to just defer their own decision making process. So so one of the things that I do is I sit them down and say, hey, is it okay are you open to coaching? They say, oh yeah, sure. So I say, first thing, when you're talking to your friends and family, this is one of my favorite one-liners. I've said this before. Write this down, record this in your head. I've said it a million times, I feel like, at this point. So I say, Mr. Homeowner, when you're talking to your friends and family about solar, they're going to have the same questions and concerns that you had before you met with me. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, whenever you look into going solar, or whenever you're telling your friends and families about going solar, they're going to have the same questions you had before you sat down with me. So you're kind of mind reading and flipping the script on them with that one line, and you're letting them know, like, hey, there's going to be concerns. There's essentially you're preparing them for resistance, right? Just like if you're knocking on a door, cold calling, and there's resistance, they're going to be talking to their friends and family and they're going to have resistance as well because that's the same market that you've been trying to tap into. Maybe you've knocked on that door, right? And you can't get through to them. So if you prepare them for resistance, it does a couple things. One, it makes them go, okay, well, like this is actually going to be a little bit of like effort. It's not like super simple. And if somebody is negative about it, like Jonathan's already prepared me for this, and you can even give them a few things that people will say. You'll say, you can even remind them of the close that you had with them. And you could even say, yeah, remember how you were kind of concerned about what happens whenever you sell your house, but we addressed that. Like your friends and family are probably going to have that same concern about what happens when they sell their house. And obviously, we address that. Don't really get into the weeds with them about it, but just let them know whatever they say back, oh, we've looked into it before. Oh, you know, we're going to be selling the house potentially soon. So we don't think it's a good idea. Whatever the resistance is, I just coach my homeowners to say the exact same scripting, right? Keep it simple. Is I give them an offer, which I'll explain that. And then I say, hey, you know what? I'm not the expert on this. I had some of those same questions and concerns. Jonathan was excellent. He helped answer all those questions. Is it okay if I put you in a group text message and he can address that for you? Right? Because all paths lead back to the text introduction, right? All paths lead back to that You want to get into a conversation, right? And we're in the business, as we say, not of energy conversations, but of energy conservation, right? That's a real old throwback phrase, but basically our job is to take that conversation and convert it into action. And so the key part here is getting your homeowners to start as many of those conversations. To this day, I get 2 to 3 referrals every single week, like clockwork. And if I actually apply all these steps even more vigorously and make more calls, it can be 5, 6, 7 referrals in a week. And then it's my job to be on top of them, follow up, and do all that. So another tip before we get to the next part is uh, get details on the person that they're referring. So if you're with them in person or even on the phone and they start telling you, oh yeah, you know what, I want to refer you to so and so, they go to my church or whatever, right? Then they start telling you, oh cool, tell me more about that person. Like what kind of a person are they? What do they do for work? Do they have kids? Are they family? What kind of, just do a few digging questions to go a little bit deeper. Why is that important? Because I'm building a psychographic profile and kind of what type of needs am I anticipating that this person might have, right? Oh, they've got a big family. Oh, they've got an electric car. Oh, they've got, right? Just like you would on a discovery call, you're kind of doing some pre-discovery call with your ambassadors. So you can kind of get that intel and have a little bit of a picture painted of who you're going to be talking to whenever you schedule that call, right? Other tips here, building significance. So this is like super pro level. Probably, don't do this till you have done most of the other stuff on the call first, but this is kind of like the next level. So building significance. So if anybody knows about Tony Robbins, he talks about the 6 human needs. The one that sells the most is significance, right? Certainty and significance are the 2 human needs that every major corporation in the world or luxury brand is built on. And luxury brands are built on significance. And so significance is just the idea of making people feel special, unique, seen, heard, validated, right? Those are all things that make somebody feel significant. And one of the ways you can do it, like we do in the sales world, is we recognize people publicly. That's probably one of the most effective ways to have somebody be validated. So this is me and Kawhi Leonard's grandma, the famous story of Kawhi Leonard's grandma, the NBA player. And she's out in Moreno Valley. I gave her this award in 2019 in front of the Red Hat Lady Society. Right on the other side of this picture is about 60, older African American women wearing red hats, right? And you can look them up, but it's the Red Hat Lady Society. I went and gave a talk to them and recognized Bernstein in front of all of her peers. So if you work with real estate offices, if you work with contractors, if you work with insurance people, they all have a team that they're a part of, most likely. And that team of their colleagues are people they're interacting with on a regular basis. And if you can actually strategically get in front of a group of people of their peers and say, and here's an example of that. I did this also for a real estate office. I don't have a picture of it, but I did this for a real estate office. I called the broker. We had done some lunch and learns, and I said, hey, one of your reps, she might even be on this call. I told her to hop on. Her name is Jan. I said, hey, is it okay? Jan has been referring me, and I want to recognize her in front of everybody at our next, lunch and learn. And so I'm going to actually give her an award. Can I have a few extra minutes to, acknowledge her? And of course, like, the broker's like, yeah, heck yeah, do that. So I got up and I said, hey, and did a little speech and said, this is what Jan's been doing. She's been super successful. I'll let her say something if she wants to, but I wanted to recognize her for all of her efforts and referring us, and then gave her this award and had her, get clapped up in front of her peers, and then also giving her money in cash in person. So that's another thing. I used to do that in cash instead of like, the ambassador portal, which I just do the ambassador portal now. But if you really want to build that significance, like start shelling out $100 bills in front of their peers. Like, and they're like, what the heck? Like she just got $1,000 in cash, not a $25 Starbucks gift card, $1,000 in cash, right? So there's different things you can do to build that significance. Last couple things, and then we'll wrap it up. So building trust. So the currency of sales is trust, right? And trust is, I would say that most people who have become in the top 5% of their profession in sales have built tremendous trust, but the top 0.1% have built so much trust that it spills over into the network of the friends and families of the people that they sold. You need to be able to build so much trust with people that they're not only like, wow, this is so great. We want to move forward with Jonathan because, he's awesome and we trust what he's saying. But there's so much trust that they feel safe to refer you to their mother, right? And that's the next level of what we do. If you can build enough trust to get the sale, congratulations, you're doing better than most. But the next level of your development is, how do I build enough trust to get them to confidently refer me to their friends and family? So here's a few strategies for that. In my sales process, towards the end, and I do this towards the end because people remember the last thing you generally say to them. So I talk about referrals and the big pitfalls of solar. Those are the last two things I talk about at the end of my close, which I'm excited to do. I'm actually putting together a slide deck for my TPO closing training. I think it's going to be lights out awesome. So hopefully get to deliver that sometime soon. But at the end of my closing process, I say, so Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, there's some common pitfalls to solar that I want you to know about, just so like what's the worst case scenario that could happen. So God forbid it does happen, at least you were kind of aware of that situation. So I do this for a couple of reasons. One, if you talk about negativity, people are going to remember that. I was just talking with John Bobness last week. We went out to lunch, and we were talking about never split the difference with what's that guy, the negotiator guy? I'm forgetting his name. But anyways, that guy, and he talks about how whenever you're communicating and influencing, you actually want to frame things negatively. And I've been doing this for years. There's a bunch of psychology around this, but whenever you're qualifying a homeowner, you don't qualify for a yes. Way back decades ago in the old days of sales, they used to talk about the yes ladder. You're trying to get yes, 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 yes to ultimately the big yes of the sale. I think that's very old, outdated psychology. I want to go for no. If I can get people to say no, 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 and then sign the contract, that's how I get the most solid, safe sale, because people feel safe saying no. It's actually this weird psychological thing that's actually flipped. People feel like their decision was more logical, rational, grounded if they actually said no to something than if they said yes. So we'll save that for the closing training and the psychology of closing. But I talk about the negatives again to reinforce that there are pitfalls. Now, what does this do? One, if they, so I don't, I used to when I was younger and less, not that I'm still young, but like back whenever I was newer to the solar, they would, go and look at reviews, right? Who's had a homeowner, go look up reviews and then call you back and say, hey, I looked it up and I just don't know, right? And I always say people go to what I want to believe.com, right? They went online, they went to what I want to believe.com and they looked for what I want to believe and they found it. Voila, the internet's amazing. And so that's what your homeowners are doing. They're doing that because everyone has confirmation bias. They think that whatever they think is correct, right? We are all that way. Anyone who knows me knows I really think that way, right? Everything I think is correct and I'm sure of it, right? And so that's the problem though, is that if you don't talk about the negative, it actually triggers suspicion in the homeowner. They go, well, you know what? This sounds way too good to be true. Jonathan's going to save me, 40% off my electric bill. I'm getting full backup power. He said that there's no lien on the house. Like this isn't, this sounds kind of weird, right? And who's had a homeowner say that to them? Hey, this sounds too good to be true, right? If somebody said that to you, that's also like somebody saying to you, like, oh, hey, Jonathan, you're a great salesperson. Who's heard that? It's like, yuck, dude. It's like, yuck. It's like you failed at, I failed at my job, right? Do not ever, if a homeowner ever says that to you, you should be disappointed in yourself, right? I'm going to shit on you for a second. That's a sign that you did a terrible job of actually making this believable enough where they go, wow, this makes sense. I understand the negatives and the pitfalls. This isn't too good to be true. This is actually something that may or may not work out well, but I hope it does, fingers crossed, right? You did a great job of actually telling people, okay, the true up bills could happen. So I go into that during the close, and for time's sake, I'm not going to go into, the scripts on each, but that's again part of my closing process. At the very end, I talk about these pitfalls and I frame them negatively. So I'm telling people like, hey, have you guys had any roof leaks? Is that going to be an issue for you guys? Oh, no, 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 no. Our roof's been good. We had an issue a couple years ago. We got it patched. Okay, cool. So now they're qualifying to me. I'm not qualifying to them. You want your homeowners qualifying to you and jumping through your hoops, not the other way around. If you're starting to jump through the customer's hoops and they're the one that's in control, you've lost control of the sale. You're not going to get that deal. So transferability, I talk about that. Go into, what can happen and what types of, products transfer easier versus others, right? Loans versus PPAs. Companies' longevity, right? There's companies that come and go. We talk about that. And I tell people like, hey, one of the most common horror stories that you hear about in solar is everything worked out great until it didn't. There was an issue. There was a roof leak. The system went down. They tried to get a hold of the installer. They went out of business. They took months to repair it, right? All these things. People have heard these things. So tell them, right? Because if you tell them, they're not going to go look at whatIwantToBelieve.com and find reviews. I don't have people do that anymore. I used to have people go look up reviews. If you have people looking up reviews, customers looking up reviews, it's because you didn't do a good job, right? They shouldn't need to go look up reviews because they're doing that because they didn't trust everything that you said. Poor customer service. Always tie customer service back to yourself. So, I always tell, and this is one of my favorite lines. Some of you've heard me say this before, but I tell my homeowners this, and some of you will be like, "What the hell? Why would you tell your homeowners this?" But it's honest, and people appreciate that. I say, "Hey, Mr. Homeowner, there's two types of solar companies that exist. Ones with terrible customer service and ones that are bankrupt." Right. I love the laugh, JB, because he gets it, right? And if you get it, you get it. And homeowners appreciate that level of honesty. And I say, hey, look, here's the reality of it. If you have any issues, I want to be your superhero. I want to come in and save the day. I'm going to do my best to coordinate and make this right for you. Now, selfishly, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, selfishly, I want to serve you not just before, during, but way after the sale, because if I do a great job for you, I know that you're going to want to refer me to your friends and family. That's my selfish intention. That's why I keep showing up years later. Is that fair? Cool. Now, whenever you say that, that's another line I've said hundreds of times. Hey, selfishly, I want to solve any problems that you have before, during, and after the sale because I know if I solve the problem for you, you're going to want to refer me to all your friends and family. Like say that over and over. You're going to want to refer me to all your friends and family, right? And believe that. And it's true. And people will. And you say it that way. People are like, oh, yeah, Jonathan, you know what? It's been a year later. And sometimes people don't refer you right away. Sometimes they refer you years later, and that's fine. But if they know you're going to pick up your phone and they believe that, then the trust level is now overflowing. It's overflowing. Now they're not just, hey, I'm going to go forward with Jonathan, but I'm going to, refer them to my friends and family. And then what's going to happen is this: always go back to the system. So you're going to get this. You're going to coach them. You're going to tell them everything that I said. You're going to do a lot of these things and you're going to start getting some traction. You're like, oh my gosh, it's working. And then what's going to happen is a customer is going to send you a name and a phone number and say, hey, I just talked to so-and-so. They're ready to like talk about solar. Can you give them a call? Right. And here's what I say to those people. I don't say, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll give them a call, which you could say. I've said that before, but it's usually a mistake. I say, hey, I really appreciate the referral. Could you do me a favor? Could you put me into a group text message with them? Why am I saying that? Because there's built-in accountability. If I call that person, what do you think the chances are that I call them at the right time when they're ready to talk about solar? Pretty low. They're not going to want to talk about it because you're going to catch them at the wrong time. And I don't want to do that because what it does is once they don't pick up the call one time or two times, now you're chasing them and your status lowers in their mind. Now you're just that salesperson that's chasing them. I want to come to them as a highly valued expert and referral, somebody that's getting referred over. And I don't chase people. Like, don't stop chasing people. That's the problem. If you're chasing people, you do that a couple times, your status is dropped in their mind. Now you're just that pest. So in order to save yourself some time and keep your status and value high and the perception of the person being referred, you just say, hey, I super appreciate that referral. You text them back. Can you do me a favor? Can you put me in a group text with them so that way I can coordinate a time for a phone call? Cool. All right. I'll stop it there. We're already 4 minutes over. We'll open it up for Q&A. Thank you guys. Hopefully you got some value from that. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Guys, if you have questions, type them in the chat, raise your hand. We'll hang out for a few more minutes here. But drop some love in the chat for John. I know that this was just honestly like a taste, you know. He could keep going, drop way more gold, way more nuggets. The way you deliver it, what you say, how you frame it, the energy you bring, John, I mean, it's top-notch training. So we appreciate your time and value. And just a friendly reminder, guys, Jonathan is in Southern California and he's a badass closer tier 3, and he's really specializes in TPO better than anyone I've ever known. So thank you, John. Thank you. All right, let's see if Jeff has a question for Jonathan. Go for it, Jeff.
Hey, Jonathan, great training. Thank you. Been in solar for 4 years, and I've sucked at my referral game. So what would you suggest to someone to kind of try and tap into all of the connections that they have?
Yes, thank you for asking that. You know what? That was gold because I kind of said I was going to talk about it, but I just went quickly through it. But one of the things is I mentioned give a promotional offer, give some sort of an offer, and I didn't really go deeper in that. And that's specifically around what you're saying, Jeff, which is you have to give homeowners a time-bound offer. There's a couple reasons why. One, it gives them a reason to reach out. And two, it kind of takes a non-salesperson who doesn't know how to frame a sales conversation, and it gives them kind of a blunt weapon, if you will, to actually do the job. So what I mean by that is I'll reach out. So for instance, a common one that I'll do is 6 months of electricity paid for. So here's what that conversation will sound like. So I'll just do a little role play, Jeff. Like, let's say, you know, we've worked together in the past. Maybe you're a customer or somebody that you want to get a referral from. So I'll call and say, hey, Jeff, how's it going, man? You know, just wanted to check in with you real quick. You know, whatever rapport you have with them, obviously touch on that first. How the kids, how's business, how's this, right? You know, rapport first. And then after that, I go, hey, so the reason I wanted to call you real quick is I know we've talked in the past about our referral program, and it's still the same. It's still that $1,000 that, you know, we give, but we're actually doing something special for the next couple of weeks, right? And put a time on it. So maybe it's like by, you know, the next holiday, St. Patrick's Day. From now until St. Patrick's Day, we're actually doing our new Go Green special where we're covering the first 6 months of electricity for whoever you send over. So maybe if you've talked to people in the past that were kind of on the fence and didn't know whether or not they wanted to meet with me, now would be a good time because on top of that $1,000, the company is gonna cover their first 6 months of power. So maybe just think of a few people that you can put into a group text with me. And remember, like I don't really want to name in a number. I don't want to be that guy that cold calls anybody. But if you can think of maybe 1 or 2 people that you can just introduce me to over a group text message, I would really appreciate it. And we can get you a couple $1,000 in your pocket. Right. So something like that, where I'm just giving them an offer to give to, because then they have something to go give to somebody. Right now, it's not just this weird salesy conversation where it's like, oh, yeah, like, have you ever looked into solar before? Most people aren't going to do that, you know, in my experience. They're just not. They're going to say, oh, that sounds, you know, great, Jeff. I'll think of a few people, and then you'll never hear from them. Right. So do that. And if you do that, you know, 3, 4, 5 times in a day, and you do that consistently, you're going to find out who are your players, who are your green team players, who are your A team. And then once you find those people, then the key just becomes really great communication back and forth. So like, for instance, let's say we talk, Jeff, and you do that. Let's say you put me in a group text with one person, and I hop on the text and I go, hey, and they say, hey, you know, you got to talk to Jonathan. And I go, hey, Jeff, thanks so much for the introduction. You know, hey, so and so, what I typically like to do is hop on a quick 5-minute phone call and explain the program and how it works. When's a good time for me to call you today? Question mark, right? And then you might do that. And they say, oh, hey, thank you so much. Yeah, Jeff told me, you know what, I'm available after I get off work at 6. Can you call me around then? I'm like, perfect. I'll call you at 6. Cool. So now I have a soft commitment for a phone call, right? Now let's say I call that person at 6 and they don't pick up, right? And I leave a voicemail, and maybe I even text them and say, "Hey, just calling you. It's, this is Jonathan," and then nothing happens, right? Because whatever, life happened, they got busy, distracted. Let's say I let it sit for a couple days. I reach back out, nothing happens. What do? I then reach back out to Jeff. Hey, Jeff, um, I just reached out to so and so. I don't know if something happened or something came up in their life, but like we were supposed to have a call, and then maybe they just something happened, but they never replied back to me. Have you heard from them? And oh, you know what? Actually, I was just talking to them at work, and they said that, something terrible just happened, and they've been really busy because they had a death in the family or whatever. It could be tons of things that could have happened. Okay, cool. No worries. Well, I just wanted to let you know. So, like, maybe next time you talk to them, if you could just do me a favor and kind of plant a little bug that Jonathan's trying to get a hold of you, I'd appreciate that. So you re-enroll people to then kind of, as a team, get that person back on the phone, or get them on the phone, or get the meeting set. So I answered a couple questions beyond what you said. Hopefully that helped, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is amazing, Jonathan. I hope everyone understands how much value is being shared here.
Jonathan, I have a question. This is Art.
Hey, Art.
Okay, so you're talking about in between now and St. Patrick's Day, we'll cover the first few months of your friend's electric bill. How do you know how high that electric bill is?
So here's the flip of that. I'm not covering the I'm not covering their bill to the utility. I'm covering their first 6 months of electric bill with solar. So it can be slightly misleading, right? Because people are like, well, I thought you meant 6 months of my Edison bill. I'm like, dude, your Edison bill is like $600 a month. Are you crazy? You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm going to cover your first 6 months of your solar bill, which is $300. So yeah, you don't have to specify that, really. I don't think, it's more of just to get their attention, to get in the sale. Because the truth is, if they're making a 25-year commitment, 6 months of electricity is a drop in the hat. It's nothing. So I wouldn't get caught up too much on the specifics of that. But the way I do it is I don't cover 6 months, because then especially in the summer, I use this because people are thinking, oh, my summer bills are crazy. He might be giving me $3,000 back. Okay, maybe a little bait and switchy there. I'm not trying to be, but that's kind of what it's like, hey, no, we're going to cover your first 6 months of electric. So we'll take your monthly payment with solar and multiply that by 6, and that's what we're going to rebate you back.
Other questions before we let Jonathan go generate some more referrals here?
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
It's been
Jonathan.
good. Hopefully you guys got something. Yeah, feel free to reach out on social media. You can find me under Jonathan Charles Wilson. I'm on a few different podcasts. I have my own podcast that I launched last year called the Go Green Podcast on YouTube. Currently, it's just on YouTube, so go subscribe there. If you search Go Green Podcast, I'm actually interviewing Alec Nethercott again tomorrow. We're going to be launching that one, leadership podcast. He's a phenomenal leader, has a great book called Core for Leadership, and a bunch of other great podcasts. I think Cynthia is going to be on next, and a few others. So anyways, find me there if you want to reach out. I love connecting. So message me on any platform, Jonathan Charles Wilson. I'm the same name everywhere you go.
Thanks for bringing it once again, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you guys. All right, I'll let you go.
All right, everybody. If you are looking for another training, we've got another training that's called Setter Surge that is starting in 15 minutes at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. I'm going to post the link in the chat right now. You can jump on with Jeff and others and start taking action to generate leads, which then you can get referrals from. So thanks, everybody. Check powurcalendar.com for market development meetings that are happening the rest of this week, and we will see you soon. Thanks, everybody.